Okay. So, what if I told you that currently today within the country and really within the world that there is a syndrome that is affecting many children that causes them to have depression, anxiety, lower lifespan, and a whole host of other issues that come with this syndrome, but it's something that is not really very talked about. It's not researched very often, and we really don't have a treatment for this. And I would imagine a lot of you would be thinking, well, why not? Why isn't this a bigger issue? Why aren't we talking about it? Well, that syndrome that I'm talking about is called parental alienation. And it affects about 29% of children from divorced homes have suffered some form of parental alienation. Parental alienation affects both the mother and the father. It is not exclusive to one or the other, but the effects on either are always devastating. In this speech, I'm going to try to go over what the clinical definition of parental alienation is, and I'm going to try to identify the short and long term effects of parental alienation, and I'm going to try to address what the effects are on the alienated parent. So, first, we're going to start with the parental alienation definition, the clinical definition as it stands today. So, today, the clinical definition of parental alienation is a mental state in which a child, usually one whose parents are engaged in a high conflict separation or divorce, allies himself strongly with one parent and rejects the relationship with the other parent without legitimate justification. Now, the origin of this is by a man named Richard Allen Gardner from 1985. He was a New York child psychologist, and he suggested the concept of parental alienation syndrome as a condition. And he said, quote, in which children are obsessed with depreciation and criticism of a parent that is unjustified and or exaggerated. And the concept of parental evaluation syndrome includes parental alienation syndrome includes the brainwashing component, but is much more inclusive. It includes not only conscious but subconscious and unconscious factors within the parent that contribute to the child's alienation. Some of the symptoms of parental alienation, I'll go over a few. One is the child's campaign of vilification against the target parent, thoughtless and frivolous rationalizations for the child's disinterest in the target parent, absence of ambivalence, the independent thinker phenomenon, which refers to the behaviors seen in some alienated children where they they state that the resistance to seeing the unfavored or targeted parent originates from their own independent thought and not from the other parent's impact. Uh, there are others, but we don't really have time here today. The next thing I'll go over is the levels proposed by Mr. Richard Gardner. He proposed three: mild, moderate, and severe. Mild is the most superficial. Generally, it doesn't really manifest very heavily, and usually it just comes with some uh, critical and visitation, but are occasionally critical and unhappy with the victimized parent. But usually the children cooperate and are passive. Moderate is a little stronger. The children are more disruptive and rude to the victimized parents, but usually visitation still happens. It's just much more disruptive when it does. Severe visitation rights may cease altogether because the child refuses and is openly hostile towards the targeted parent. Some of the effects of parental alienation on children is that they have generally including a shorter lifespan, depression, anxiety, social withdrawal, aggression, acting out, low self-esteem, insecure attachments, and many more. And these were proposed by Dr. Laurenatos in 2020. Dr. Baker did a interview study with 40 interviewees to try to assess the kind of effects that this might have on people in individuals. And in that interview, he had 26 reported low self-esteem through adulthood. 28 identified that they suffered from at least one episode of depression. 14 reported substance abuse, 16 acknowledged that they lacked trust in both themselves and others, and 14 were alienated from their own children. Effects of parental alienation on adults. In particular, the individuals who suffer from parental alienation have lower self-sufficiency, according to definitions established in a study done by Dr. Baker and Dr. Ben Ami, include a greater chance that they had not completed a four-year college, they were not currently enrolled in school or working, and may not effectively care for themselves in basic ways. One of the other major effects is low self-esteem, depression, drug and alcohol abuse, all very terrible. In conclusion, I hope that this spurs you on to try to research this and hopefully forward the research into parental alienation to try to take away the stigma of this and really help to save some children's lives and make everyone's lives a little bit better when it comes to this kind of issue. Thank you for your time and goodbye.